Like and subscribe right now, or you're going to have bad luck for the rest of the week. 2021 was an unusual year for gamers, who were still dealing with more delays and controversy no thanks to 2020. Yet, there were still a number of great games announced and released. We all witnessed video game producers learn to adjust to remote work settings, and still offer the public fantastic experiences. All three first-party firms, other AAA publishers, and indie teams all worked hard on their games, returning classics, creative small-scale story games, and a huge amount of time looping are among them. Let's talk about the top 10 best games of 2021. Number 10. Before Your Eyes. The primary theme of Before Your Eyes is obvious from the title. What if your entire life was flashing in front of your eyes? What would you see if you had power over it? Then what would you choose to see? How long could you remain in a happy moment, flee a guilty memory, or deal with buried traumas for the sake of catharsis? The experience is enhanced by a camera monitoring your real-life eye blinking in Goodbyeworld Games' stunning debut game. Before Your Eyes is indeed a video game with a rather unsettling concept of trusting what's around you, only to have that reality ripped out from under your feet in the final act. Number 9. Deathloop. Deathloop's bright 60s-inspired visual style is instantly eye-catching and self-assured, which is one of the reasons it stands out. The premise of the game is that 4 districts of Black Reef are crammed with strange and zany attractions, ranging from just a computer-controlled LARP to army bunkers and decadent underground pubs. But every oddity and odd locale looks and feels like it fits. This helps make sense when you consider that perhaps the visionaries' magnificent, strange, and invincible minds are responsible for the island's design aesthetic in-game. Fantastic, eccentric, and unbreakable, they are the ones controlling Black Reef and the time circle that enables its inhabitants to party non-stop, everlastingly. The game's storyline and outstanding performances are also noteworthy features of Deathloop. Number 8. Sable. A mile-long stretch of terrain and sunsets over jagged mountains with breathtaking cliffs. That's what you'll experience in Sable. The vibes of the game are just as crucial as the purpose in Sable. The story follows a young woman named Sable as she embarks on a stage of life that sends her off on her own to explore the world. Look elsewhere if you're searching for just another open world that is full of creatures to slay and adversaries to shoot, like so many. When every other game's attempt to elevate the risks generally means an even more lethal weapon to use, Sable's stress-free plot is a fresh breath of air. Number 7. The Forgotten City. The Forgotten City's concept is quite ingenious. The game's overarching plot is rather easy to figure out from elements in the game's initial stages, but it's the game's journey to any of the endings that is honestly spectacular. The Forgotten City stands out as one of the greatest games in a year full of games that violated how games should be made, in order to lay the foundation of a time loop story. Because the Forgotten City took that route and used it to thoroughly deconstruct the gaming market, it was so successful. In the game, you're transported back in time to the Forgotten Metropolis, a Roman city ruled by a single condition: don't sin. This means everyone in the city is doomed if they break the rule, with no way out. In reaction, inhabitants are compelled to avoid but also figure out what exactly makes a sin, and avoid it altogether. Number 6. Halo Infinite. The Master Chief has returned. In this sci-fi shooter, Halo Infinite offers a new chapter to the legendary character's story, placing him in a new ring world. The stakes are as high as they've ever been, and you can now run, drive, fly, or swing past enemy lines to aid your fellow Marines in turning the tide of war. Every enemy encounter feels distinct, new, and thrilling thanks to a new grappling hook and a choice of weaponry to pick from. And that's not the end of it. The restoration of Halo's near-perfect multiplayer mode puts it on par with other live service titles, such as Fortnite and Apex Legends. And if you're dedicated to earning every Season Pass item, you can acquire visual accessories like different character colors and patterns, swappable armor components, and stunning visual effects with the acquisition of an optional Season Pass. Number 5. Returnal. In Returnal, the user plays as Celine, a stubborn intergalactic spy who lands on an absolutely stunning planet. In this roguelike game, Celine will die, and die again, as she travels through the planet, shooting at tentacled monsters. She even comes across old bodies of herself, yourself. Returning home can be a difficult task, as it can take many hours to complete a single run. At first, Returnal had no checkpoints, making it difficult to complete, as that meant the player had to sit for many hours to do so. However, gameplay improvements, like the player's controller creaking as rain falls on Celine's helmet, are unsettlingly deliciously real. The game also draws people in with its central mystery and small, clever design touches. And, to the universal relief of everyone, the checkpoint system has been resolved, so now anyone can play this creepy game in chunks. Number 4. Hitman 3. The third and final installment in the World of Assassination trilogy is the greatest yet. As Agent 47, you will once again penetrate the 1%'s hallowed halls to assassinate your targets. The game's ingenuity is this: you must stage each assassination as an accident, instead of a murder, which requires patience and skill. With grim humor and some amusing, weird circumstances, the creators hit the proper tone. The plot is a little thin, but the game works as a shockingly clever critique of the secret agent category, which displays the trappings of capitalism. In this game, you start at the world's tallest skyscraper, the Dubai Tower, and then descend into Club Hell, an underground rave. Number 3. Inscription. Despite a tumultuous year of delays, rocky launches, and more, 2020 will no doubt be remembered as a year when innovation in games became the biggest selling point for many of its biggest success stories. Screen Rant's 2021 Game of the Year is a reflection of that notion, with developer Daniel Mullins Games producing Inscription, one of the most unexpectedly subversive entries into the card game genre ever created. Inscription is, at its core, a tabletop card game simulation that tells a narrative both inside and outside the board's restrictions. It's difficult to describe Inscription in detail without giving away some of what makes the game so great, as from the mid-game onwards, twists and turns begin to unravel an entire meta structure. Essentially, the second half of Inscription is basically an entirely different experience. Beyond its compelling twists, however, Inscription is also a fully functional and exciting card game, designed with all the trappings of a night of thought-provoking tabletop gaming. Even here, however, there are plenty of secrets to be discovered. Some cards in Inscription are, on their surface, rather mediocre, but playing them in specific ways, or playing them often, reveals hidden game-changing powers. Inscription's gameplay varies, but, as a unifying theme, it prioritizes experimentation and exploration above all else, and the more time players spend with the title, the more they'll find reasons to love it. Inscription's aesthetic also lends itself well to its design, with plenty of shadows melting into the background, creating visual cues or unsettling imagery. Exploration of the cabin that houses the card game and its game master is encouraged, and features plenty of creepy, grim elements that create an atmosphere of horror, though Inscription doesn't lean on anything resembling a jump scare. Number 2. Forza Horizon. Forza's Horizon series of expansive racing has been fine-tuning the style for years, with Forza Horizon 5 possibly having finally nailed it. Forza Horizon 5 is set in Mexico and places the player in charge of the Horizon Festival, which encompasses the entire game's vast open world. It's one of the funnest Xbox games to date, hands down, thanks to its bright vistas and arcade racing sensibilities, as well as the Forza series' skill in the racing simulator genre. Modern supercars, historical classics, and innovative vehicles are all available for purchase and ready to be driven on any terrain. The player will feel like a gearhead who understands what they're doing if you tweak your car's specifications with new shocks, aero bits, brake pads, and other items, mostly. Whether the player is using a joystick or a racing wheel, personalizing their car could make it feel completely unique, well before any customized paint job or competing against other players in the Forza Horizon community. Number 1. Resident Evil. Over the course of its 25-year existence, the Resident Evil franchise has kept developing and perfecting itself to cover a variety of distinct concepts. For example, the early Resident Evil video games helped shape the survival horror genre as a whole. Resident Evil 4 paved the way as to what third-person action games might achieve, and Resident Evil 7 deepened its horror concentration, while also introducing new concepts, including a first-person perspective. In between, there are innumerable and changing combinations of all of them. This year's Resident Evil Village was a thrilling and memorable experience, because it seemed to be completely conscious and took into account the franchise's history, capitalizing on all of that knowledge, innovation, success, and, yes, failure. As examples, there's Resident Evil 7 department's originality in keeping to a first-person perspective. It adopts the Resident Evil 4 style swing rather than the plodding travels through dark and cramped passageways of that game. The Village is a quicker, more action-packed game than its predecessor, with much more shooting and a lot more sprinting for your life whenever you come across things you can't simply kill. That is all for today's video. Thank you all for watching. While you're here, go ahead and click on one of these 2 videos on your screen. See you there!